What's up everyone? Today we're going to talk about my January wrap up, which I think I did pretty well with. I'm starting out the year with a bang. I did not have anything lower than a 3-star. Let's all be proud of me, okay? All right, I'm gonna go through just some quick stats that I get from the Storygraph app. So in January, I ended up reading 9 books. This was 2,923 pages. So I realized I accidentally had a book on this list twice, and that's why I said 9 books, but it actually was 8 books that I read. So the stats on the screen are the correct stats for the month. Just forget what I said out of my mouth. My moods are kind of all over the place because I actually read some like very informative like pregnancy type books, which I'm only gonna go over a little bit because I know that not many of you actually care about those. Then I also read some horror and like romance and contemporary. So my genres look a little bit different this month compared to normal. So for my 8 reviews, I have 3 3-stars, 3 4-stars, and 2 5-stars. So I actually started editing my video and I realized that I actually get a reward this month because I read my entire TBR except for the 1 DNF, but you guys were the ones that told me I shouldn't count my DNFs towards my TBR game. I'm not counting the 1 DNF that I had. I read all of the other books that I had picked from my TBR game in January, so I deserve to pick a reward. So I have my reward cards here. I'm going to shuffle them up and then I'm going to pick one reward in order to celebrate finishing my entire TBR. Okay, my reward. Go get ice cream. Ooh, that sounds good. I've actually been really loving ice cream within this pregnancy, and my friend Pam, we were having a conversation about Little Debbie's, and I was saying how like the oatmeal cream pies are so good, and she told me that they actually make Little Debbie oatmeal cream pie ice cream. That is what I'm going to go buy in order to reward myself for reading my TBR. So not a bad reading month. All right, I'm gonna try and go in order of lowest rated to highest rated. We're gonna start out with Twice in a Lifetime. I actually have a reading vlog for this book because it was the first book that I've read from the Aardvark book club, which is very similar to Book of the Month. I had never heard anything about this author before, so I was really excited to try out this book, especially because it said it was similar to Una Out of Order, which is one of my favorite books. However, I did only rate this 3 stars because I didn't find that it was as time travel heavy as what I had wanted. I thought it was gonna be more time travel and alternate reality, but it definitely turned into more of just a romance book. So that's one of the reasons why I rated it 3 stars. But if you want to hear like more in-depth thoughts, I will put my reading vlog up here so you can go check that out. There are not any spoilers in that, so you can definitely watch it and then read the book yourself. All right, my next 3-star is Heard It in a Love Song. This is by Tracy Garvis Graves. I have read at least one other book by this author, which I really loved. I had read On the Island, which is like a taboo romance, and I really loved that book. This one I just gave 3 stars. It actually reminded me a lot of Daisy Jones and the Six, and I am just not a huge lover of music in books. I have found out I just don't really care about that. So I think that that is the problem. I don't think that this is a bad book per se. It's definitely more like chick lit or women's fiction and about like people in their 30s trying to like get a second chance at life, but we have flashbacks of when our main character was in a band back in the day and just her really enjoying music in present day, and I just didn't really vibe with that, which is why it was just kind of, you know, a so-so book. My next 3-star is a like nonfiction memoir. It is Your Table is Ready, and this book is just a collection of stories about being a waiter in New York City. So it was interesting at times, and because I've worked in like food pretty much my whole entire life, there were definitely stories that I related to or I knew what he was talking about, but it wasn't anything that like blew me out of the water. It was just kind of a semi-entertaining book to listen to, but it wasn't anything that kind of like shocked me. You know, it's not about like murder or anything like that. So it was just kind of normal. All right, now moving on to 4 stars. I am actually so incredibly surprised at myself for this next 4-star. I read We Need to Do Something, and this is a horror book that was, I think, a little bit less than 200 pages. And if you know me, like, usually I do not vibe very well with horror, especially if it's like disgusting and confusing and doesn't make any sense. But this book is about a family of 4 that is stuck in a bathroom during a tornado warning. And it's kind of about how they like slowly turn mad because, I mean, they're there for a really long time. I will say it does have a lot of swearing in it. It does get very gory at times, and towards the like later half or the end of the book, it does get more into that weird horror vibe, you know, where it's kind of very random. But thankfully, because the whole book wasn't like that, I really enjoyed the beginning part, and we see how this dad is an alcoholic and how that really affects like this family being stuck in this bathroom. It also has an ambiguous ending, so if that's something that you don't like, or if you don't like some of the other things I talked about, I wouldn't pick it up, because I think it's going to be like very specific pertaining to who likes this book and who doesn't. But of the weird, like creepy, crazy horror books that I've read, this one was actually done the best so far. And I saw that it is a movie on Hulu. They actually made it into a movie in 2021. And so I'm excited to watch that, because I would be curious to see how they represent some of these like weird scenes like in movie format. All right, the next 4-star that I have is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I really enjoy this because it is a very emotional romance. It deals with some very hard topics, and there is an author's note in the beginning with all the trigger warnings. This is pretty much how I like my romances, where they're very realistic, real life. It's not just about like 2 people falling in love. This is about a married couple that has been married for quite some time, and they end up getting divorced because of something very detrimental that happens, and they have 2 kids. So this is about how they're co-parenting, how they're running a restaurant together. I love the food aspect in it, and I do have a reading vlog for this. Even though it is my bookish inspired cooking, it is a reading vlog, and then at the end I make one of the recipes from the book. So if you want to hear a lot of my in-depth thoughts about the emotion and everything that went along with it, there are no spoilers, but I will link it up here for you so you can go check that out. One note I want to say is that the reason I didn't rate that book 5 stars is because it does have a lot of like very graphic, smutty scenes in it, and I'm just not a lover of that. Okay, the next 3 books I'm going to talk about are all pregnancy related. You might want to just skip to the end, or maybe you're done with this video anyway. But the first one is a 4-star. This is Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. I am planning on having a home birth. This is my first baby, and I am almost 8 months pregnant. I have been doing a lot of research preparing myself for birth in general. This one is a fan favorite of a lot of people that do have home births, and there are a lot of stories in the beginning about like actual like personal stories of people that did home births, which I really enjoyed. I did like that. I wouldn't say it's like the best pregnancy book that I've read, but I definitely learned things from it, and if you're planning a home birth, this would be a good one to read. All right, my 5 stars. The first one I want to talk about is Mama Natural. This is a week-by-week pregnancy guide. I think the what to expect when you're expecting, like that kind of thing, but this one is more natural, crunchy, like, you know, that kind of thing. So I really enjoy that because it definitely pertains to more of how I am and not as much medical based, but I really, really love it. It has recipes, it has really great tips, it has exercises for you to do. I just went ahead and finished the whole book, even though I'm obviously not all the way at the end of my pregnancy, but I really enjoy this one. And then lastly, I read The Nourishing Tradition of Baby and Child Care. This is more more Weston A. Price based, which is a like nutrient dense, traditional style way of eating, which is how I like to eat with like sourdough and raw dairy and stuff like that. This is a very crunchy book. So if you are not like extremely holistic, you will probably find this book weird and not really pertaining towards you, which is totally fine. Like I think it's a very small audience, but I really enjoyed it. And I actually want to buy this for my shelf because there were so many tips in it that I loved. I love the recipes that are in it, and it just had a ton of great information. All right, now I should talk about the one DNF that I have. So I DNF'd the third Mrs. Durst. This was the only thriller book that I had on my TBR, and I was really looking forward to it because I thought it was going to be more of like a behind closed doors type of book. It's supposed to be about this like really controlling husband that controls this wife. I absolutely hated the writing style. It was very choppy and like amateurish, and then it felt just like almost like a mafia romance or something. It was just very hard on the romance, and it didn't feel like a thriller at all. So I think I made it to about 100 pages before I DNF'd it, but it was not for me. All right, that's it. Those are all of the books that I read in January. I am very excited for my February TBR. If you haven't seen that, definitely check it up here. I'll link it there because I played my TBR game, and I have some really, really, really great books on my TBR for February. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I will see you all in another video soon. Bye everyone.
Yesterday